We're lucky this review is happening. I have not had a day off in 7 days, and if you know anything about retail, it is exhausting. Hence, this isn't done. This is in need of help. But this is okay, so there we go. Today's book is The Time Between Us by Tamara Stone. It is a YA novel that I discovered when I was more appropriately aged. The next book is Time After Time. It revolves around two people, two characters, whatever their names are, Anna and Bennett. And Bennett is a time traveler. They are never supposed to meet because he is born when she is 17, but they meet because he accidentally lost his older sister, Brooke. He is trying to find her, or at least get closest to the time period in which she was lost, because he can only travel within his own lifespan. So if he was born in 1995, then he can only go back to the date of his birth. But his sister is older than him, so they decided to chance it, because one of the things that they like to do together is go and see shows, concerts. So he can move, it's kind of like Doctor Who, time and space, so anywhere within his own timeline and anywhere in the world. So they go to Chicago to see a concert. He gets kicked back immediately, but because that is within Brooke's natural timeline, she stays. So he comes to Chicago, or at least to a suburb of Chicago, because that's where his maternal grandmother lives, in hopes of somehow running into Brooke. That is the impetus as to why he is here. Anna, this is her natural timeline. They meet because they go to school together. He is living with his grandmother, however, his grandmother does not know who he is, and Anna doesn't know any of this early on either. This first book is from her perspective, so I basically already spoiled it. The secret is that he's a time traveler. I do like the restrictions and parameters that Stone has given Bennett, because he basically makes his own rules. I don't know, I don't remember if we learn why he can do this in the second novel. For some reason in my brain, it's been probably 10 years since I've read these books, if not more, because holy cow, time is an accordion at some point in life, and mine is accordioning really fast. But in my brain, for some reason, I feel like his grandparents, one of his grandparents had this gene, so somehow it's genetic. But as far as this book is concerned, we do not know why he has this ability. He just does. And because there's no documented history of people with this ability, he basically comes up with his own parameters. He doesn't do do-overs, meaning he doesn't go to change things. He will not go back to a natural disaster to try to fix it or anything like that. And those are boundaries that Anna pushes. So when we get to that point in the novel, that is kind of when she loses me. I like her, but I felt like she was really selfish, and I didn't like that she did not respect that these are his hard no's. Anyways, his grandmother does not know who he is, but he pretends that he is a student at Northwestern. His family dynamics are his mother and grandmother had a falling out at some point when the children were being born, and so Maggie was not in their lives very much as children. She eventually develops Alzheimer's and then dies when he's around 12. He discovers he has this ability around the age of 10. His mother is really fearful of his safety regarding this ability. His father uses it to his own financial advantage. So somehow they work out this system where Bennett goes back in time and discovers really great times to invest in the stock market or something, and then he'll get word to his dad, who then invests, and whiz bam, thank you ma'am, they become wealthy. So a lot of what he does in this book is funded by the fact that they cheated the system and now they have money, and there you go. We open with Anna kind of living her day-to-day life. She works at her family's bookstore. She runs cross-country. She's not extremely wealthy. yet she is in an extremely wealthy community and at an extremely wealthy school. So in some ways, she's the odd man out. Her best friend is this girl named Emma, who is British. I am completely blanking as to why she lives in the Chicago suburb, but she does, and she's not someone you would naturally expect to be friends with someone like Emma, but they are. Bennett is something of a mystery. He is very standoffish. However, Anna, as I said, runs cross country. And so when the book opens, she is at the track practicing. She sees Bennett in the stands and he smiles at her like he knows her. And when she comes back around the track, it's only like, I don't know, maybe a minute. He's gone. She goes to investigate and she's like, it's like he disappeared into thin air. So she's going to tell Emma about this really weird experience, but they get interrupted, and thankfully so, because when she gets to school, there's that boy that was watching her at the track, except this time he acts like he doesn't know her. This is how things go. Emma, thinking she's all cool and funny, decides to approach Bennett in the lunchroom and get him over to their table, at which point Anna says, hey, I know you. I saw you this morning. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. But then she starts getting mixed signals from him because sometimes he acts like he knows her or he's being flirty, and then other times he's incredibly standoffish. So we have this back and forth a good bit, only to realize or to learn that he would do some of these moments over. So he doesn't say he doesn't do do-overs. It's really like he doesn't mess with history. But in certain situations, he would realize he doesn't want to lead her on because he has knowledge of her because he has been given the letter by this point. But he's like, I don't need to mess with her timeline. I'm not part of her timeline. I'm not a natural part of her timeline. So I need to leave this alone. But then he can't help himself, and they do end up getting into a relationship. He shows her what he can do, because there had been a moment where she'd run across him, because he's not supposed to stay in a place too long, like basically a couple days, but he ends up staying for like 3 months because that's how long Brooke is gone. She ends up getting kicked back naturally. I wish there'd been a more in-depth explanation as to why and how she stayed for as long as she did, and then why she ended up getting kicked back. Bennett surmises that he was able to stay because Brooke was not where she was supposed to be. However, it doesn't mean that he doesn't get kicked back or his body doesn't try to kick him back to his natural timeline. There's one instance in which Anna runs across him in the park and he is suffering the ill effects of traveling, because for him, he gets migraines and he battles this in like migraines and severe dehydration or something. So he combats this by drinking shots of espresso and a lot of water. And you know what? I'm just saying, I'm glad I'm not him because I hate coffee. And he also drinks Red Bull. I would die because I dislike coffee and energy drinks. Like, I don't think I could force myself to drink that stuff just to improve my physical and mental state. Anna, on the other hand, just like Brooke, the effects of traveling are more like stomach related. They feel nauseous. He is obviously able to take people with him wherever he goes. She has run into him and he's acting crazy. Like, he's acting like something is really physically wrong with him. She goes to get him a glass of water. When she comes back, he's gone, and then she doesn't see him for a couple days. They end up getting together because she's at the bookstore that her parents own. She has a Spanish project in which they are all tasked with coming up with the best travel itinerary they can, and whoever comes up with the best will get a travel voucher. She is at work looking into some of the books when she hears a noise in the back. Right as she hears the noise in the back, this customer comes in, but he's actually there to rob her. At which point, Bennett makes his grand debut and he sneaks her out of there. He later, or like basically when I say sneaks, he dematerializes with her. It turns out that he initially had been at the bookstore with her, and they were talking about the project, only for this gentleman to enter. Bennett had not been seen, so he was able to disappear, get himself out of there. This is the first time that he messes with time to someone's advantage, but he does it in a small way. He doesn't stop the burglary. He changes the circumstances by calling the police. But when the police don't arrive within a timely manner, that's when he comes back into the store, and then he gets Anna out only for the police to arrive and arrest the guy. Obviously, cat's out of the bag. Then he reveals everything to her, and at this point, they're like, we'll just be together. We want to be together, and there's kind of no stopping it right now. They go on this great first date, while simultaneously, Emma goes on a first date with, or not necessarily a first date, but a date with one of Anna's childhood friends named Justin. And Justin works at the CD shop. And this is one thing I really enjoyed about these two books, is the setting and how it feels like we're in 1995. And especially in the next book, because in the next book we have Bennett's perspective. I enjoy how he's always wanting to use his cell phone or modern luxuries that are not available in 1995. So I think that's what was really successful in creating the setting and atmosphere. I enjoy being reminded of what it's like to have CDs and CD players, and we don't have cell phones. It was just a simpler time, and in many ways it was a more enjoyable time because we didn't have all this outside nonsense constantly barraging us. Justin, Anna and Emma, well, Anna had always thought that he'd had a thing for her. Reveals that he did have a thing for her, but at some point he started connecting with Emma and they had been hanging out. I still am not clear as to why they never clued Anna in before, but they admit we're kind of hanging out, we're gonna go on a date. So Anna and Bennett go rock climbing, and they have this really great time. They get to know each other. It was a good foundation to build upon for their relationship. Meanwhile, Emma and Justin have the same kind of day. However, what happened to them was they got into a major car accident. Justin escaped with minor injuries, but Emma is severely injured. This is when Anna loses me. Bennett knows his limitations. He knows how he does and doesn't want to use his ability to travel, and she will not take no for an answer. She will not respect the fact that these are things that he doesn't want to get involved with. He did break his own rule to get involved with her, and he's essentially breaking his rule to try to find his sister, but she breaks him down, and he agrees to go back and prevent Emma and Justin from being in the time and the place. So they end up double dating. Anna is like, oh, see, everything's perfect. We didn't mess anything up. When in reality, what they did mess up, and this is something of a spoiler, was Emma and Justin didn't have this day where they connected. So in the next book, we learn that they end up breaking up. Like, they'd had a couple rocky moments towards the end of this novel, but we ultimately learn that they break up, and it's because they didn't experience whatever it was on that fateful day to bond them together. And Justin, at the end of this book, ends up trying to kiss Anna, and he's like, well, I've always liked you. So initially, because of the accident, so first she gets robbed, and then later in the week is the accident. So she doesn't end up completing her project and turning it in. In the new timeline, she has turned it in. Her teacher chooses hers as the winning project, which gives her this $500 voucher. She is also told by him that there is this foreign exchange program that one of the candidates fell through, and so they have an opening. Because she's living her best life, she brushes it off. Excuse me, I cannot remember exactly what happened, but Bennett ends up getting kicked back to his own timeline because Brooke has shown up. Anna has no idea what happened. The next morning, she decides to go for a run. As she's trying to run out her feelings, she sees Bennett's car. And so she's like, oh my gosh, Bennett's back. It turns out to be Maggie, because Maggie, not knowing why Bennett put her name on the title, she's like, I mean, yeah, I just went to pick up his car from impound because the police called me that it had been abandoned. And she asks Anna, do you know why he would buy a car in my name? And Anna's like, I can't tell her anything. So time is passing. Anna is running around the track, sees Bennett like she had the first time. And Bennett this whole time is like, I never saw you at the track. She runs up to him. He's telling her, I haven't been able to get back. Bennett needs to show you. Then he disappears again. She goes back to Maggie's house where Bennett is. I guess he has finally reappeared. Or maybe I'm just getting my timeline mixed up. I think I'm getting my timeline mixed up. She goes to him and she says, hey, look, I saw you at the track. This is what you said. You said that you needed to show me something. He takes her to modern day San Francisco. I do not know how I'm getting my timeline mixed up, but I am. In any case, it all comes down to one thing. He shows her the letter she had written to him. In this letter, what it says is, you need to let me go. You should tell me not to wait for you. At this point, she gets kicked back. He is stuck in San Francisco. Neither of them know why he thought she needed to see this letter. She's at school and her teacher reminds her of the date. She's like, I don't know what you're talking about, because she never actually looked at the paperwork. He informs her it's the last day to apply for this exchange program. She's like, maybe this is why I needed to see that letter. Beforehand, I just kept waiting for him to come back. Now I can use this opportunity to do what I want to do, which is travel. Because that has been her game plan all along, is to get out of this town, take a gap year and travel for a year, because she knew once she went to school, because they don't have a lot of money, she was going to spend all of her time working to save up to pay for college. So if there was ever going to be an opportunity to see the world, it was going to be before she went to college. And she basically was like, this is a precursor to seeing the world. It's like a 10-week program, and she convinces her parents to let her go. So now we're at the end of the novel. She's on the beach. She's living her best life. And then she looks over to see a postcard of, I think, San Francisco. Past that postcard, she sees Bennett. So they are able to reunite. I thought this would have been a really great place to stop. It doesn't stop, but I feel like there must have been a point where Stone maybe did not foresee this as a duology. Essentially, honestly, I can't remember what they do. I guess I cannot give you actual facts about the very end of the book, except that Anna and Bennett are reunited. He is ready to take her to Paris, which is a destination that they had both wanted to see together or experience together. And instead of going, she's like, you know what? There's that little coffee place down the beach. They do really good coffee. And they go down there. There was more to the end of this story, and I simply cannot remember what it is, which is totally my fault. And I'm so sorry that this review is kind of sucky. I enjoyed this book as much as I did upon my first read. It's easy, simple. I like their romance. It's not trying too hard. It is what it is, and they're exploring each other, and they're exploring what it looks like to be involved in an impossible relationship. Because the constant question is, can they be together? If they are 16 years apart, what what is going to happen to them. And that is what's addressed in the next book. One thing I do remember about this book is that we do see Anna at the end giving Bennett the letter. It's just this idea of the butterfly effect and why he has his rules, which is why there are some things in the next book that I don't necessarily understand, because it feels like he throws all of his rules out the window. But it is a strange concept. He can do things over and he will retain the memory. Whereas, like in the bookstore when she gets robbed, Anna does not remember. But when he takes her with him, they do both remember. So it's interesting that he can erase entire periods of time and nobody will ever know. It seems harmless until you really think about it. Anna retains the memories of her date with Bennett because they were both there together and they both did the do-over. There's a point in the next book where Bennett is talking about doing something and his sister is like, just so long as like I don't meet the love of my life or something, or this really cute guy asks me out on a date. So it's interesting that she would never ever know that she missed out on this great experience, but that great experience could have led to something, and now her life is irrevocably changed. Unless you want to think about what will be, and if it's meant to be, it will happen. I really enjoyed it. And I think that this is a book that you guys could enjoy too. There are minor problems for me, but on the whole, like even when I disconnect from Anna, I can still see the validity of what she wants done. I just wish that she never sees the pressure she's putting on Bennett, or the ways that she is challenging him to essentially disregard his morals and values because this is what she wants. That is the time between us. Thanks for sticking with me, and I'll see you tomorrow for Time After Time. Bye.